Wow, the intrigue that is surrounding the Washington Commanders. So much talent, yet so much doubt when it comes to analyzing the Washington Commanders. This is Sports Guy talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about the reasons for why the Washington Commanders will absolutely shock the NFL world this season. Despite the fact that many NFL experts and fans are low on the Commanders, this team is certainly not lacking talent in key positions. In fact, there are some people out there that could even believe in the Commanders making a run for the NFL playoffs this season. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. Are the Washington Commanders legitimate contenders in the NFC this season? And my answer to that question is absolutely. There is zero doubt in my mind that the Washington Commanders are a relevant team in the NFC this upcoming season. You guys heard me correctly. I said the NFC, not the NFC East. I think the Washington Commanders can absolutely win the NFC East, but as far as contention in the NFC, absolutely. I believe that the Washington Commanders are an elite team in the NFC. And you guys might be wondering, am I on drugs? Am I smoking some crack when I'm talking about the Washington Commanders? My answer to that is absolutely not. I truly believe that this Washington Commanders team is deep. I believe that this Washington Commanders team can absolutely make a run to the Super Bowl this year because of the fact that they have an elite defensive line, because of the fact that their secondary is much improved, because of the fact that they're going to be getting better quarterback play at the quarterback position this year, because of the fact that their wide receiver room is elite, because of the fact that their running backs are really good for the Washington Commanders, because of the fact that they upgrade big time at the offensive coordinator position. And anytime that you upgrade from Scott Turner to Eric Bieniemy, that is a massive win. Even if people don't like Eric Bieniemy, they got to realize that he is massively better than Scott Turner. When Scott Turner was the offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders, they were one of the worst offenses in the NFL. If the Washington Commanders scored 20 points or more a game, that was already considered a miracle. Scott Turner was running one of the most outdated offenses in all of football. This was Scott Turner's version of offense. Okay, let me go ahead and hand the ball off for 3 yards in a cloud of dust, or let's call a four-verts concept, or let's just call it basic play action, and we'll give him zero protection whatsoever. We're not going to put players in positions to succeed. That was literally what Scott Turner's offense is. With Eric Bieniemy, they're going to be seeing a lot more RPOs. You're going to see players being open in space more often. You might even see Curtis Samuel as a wide back, and you're thinking about the fact how you're going to have playmakers in space. And what are the Washington Commanders really good at? Having players in space. When I look at the wide receiver room, they've got Terry McLaurin, who's going to emerge into a top 5 wide receiver this year. I'm really high on Terry McLaurin. I think the chemistry between Sam Howell and Terry McLaurin is going to end up being one of the best in all of football. Not even just in the NFC, but in all of the NFL. That's how high I am on Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin makes acrobatic catches, and he's been producing with many trash quarterbacks on the Washington Commanders. You look at how he had to deal with Dwayne Haskins. You had to look at how he dealt with one-legged Alex Smith. Then you look at how he dealt with Ryan Fitzpatrick for a quarter. Then he had to deal with Taylor Heineke, who had the arm of a BB gun. Now, granted, Taylor Heineke did have the clutch factor, but he really didn't have anything else whatsoever in this game other than he could scramble around a little bit. But there's a reason why Taylor Heineke was rated as one of the worst passers in all of football when you look at the advanced stats. Then you look at the fact how he had to deal with Carson Wentz as well. Carson Wentz, by the way, is out of the NFL. And I never understood the love that everybody was giving for Carson Wentz. Everybody kept talking about how Carson Wentz was this great NFL quarterback, and I was so baffled and confused why people even thought that to begin with. Sure, he had that one great year with Doug Peterson, but what else did he have? He didn't have a great rookie year. He didn't have any other exceptional years outside of 2017. Who cares if you showed up in 2017? Blake Bortles showed up in 2017, but I'm not seeing anybody saying that Blake Bortles is an elite football player. And before anybody says that Blake Bortles is an elite football player, you need to get drug tested if you actually believe that, because Blake Bortles is trash at the quarterback position. When you talk about the Washington Commanders, they have had F-level quarterback play at the quarterback position, with the exception of Taylor Heineke, who quite frankly was not really getting the job done whatsoever. Heineke was fumbling the ball like crazy. He had a lot of turnovers in his time as the Washington Commanders starting quarterback. But with all that being said, though, they now have a new starter in place. His name is Sam Howell. And am I high on Sam Howell? Not necessarily. But I think Sam Howell is better than all those trash quarterbacks that the Washington Commanders have been employing for not just the Ron Rivera era, but in the last 20 years. When you look at the Washington Commanders, Redskins, football team, whatever you want to name them, they have been garbage at that position since 1999, with the exception of rookie year RG3. But other than that, the Commanders have had awful quarterback play, and I think Sam Howell can at least give them C-level play. I like this game coming out of UNC. I like the fact how he could throw the deep ball really nicely, particularly to Dyami Brown. Speaking of Dyami Brown, he's on the Washington Commanders right now. He's going to give them some solid depth at the wide receiver position. They also added Brian Pringle, a Super Bowl champion who has had experience in the Eric Bieniemy system. They've got Curtis Samuel. Like I said, they can use him as a wide back. Then they've got Jahan Dotson, who led all rookies in touchdowns touchdowns last year. And people were talking about Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and George Pickens, and that's fine. Those receivers are great. But when you talk about great receivers from the 2022 draft class, make sure that you mention Jahan Dotson, because he led all rookies in touchdowns. And he did that while missing 5 games last year. So imagine if Jahan Dotson had actually played all the games. Maybe he ends up scoring double-digit amount of touchdowns. And that was with Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke manning the work at the quarterback position. Now he gets to play with Sam Howell. Sam Howell is better than both Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke. It was a travesty that he was not playing ahead of those 2 guys last season. Sam Howell has the it factor. He's got that moxie. He's got that swagger. He has the clutch gene in him. Sure, Sam Howell doesn't have the biggest arm. He's not the fastest guy. Hell, he might even lead the league in interceptions. But what Sam Howell has that some of these other quarterbacks don't have is moxie. Sam Howell is a guy that is willing to take chances with the football. He's a guy that's willing to be decisive with it. He's an incredible leader, and he has all the intangibles. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he's going to lead the league in fourth quarter comebacks this year. I believe that Sam Howell will end up being a baller for the Washington Commanders. When I look at this Commanders team, they can go 13-4 with the roster that they have. A lot of people are probably wanting me to get drug tested right now. They're probably like, did you smoke weed before you aired out this video? And my answer to that is absolutely not, because Sam Howell is a guy that, yeah, he's not the best quarterback in the world, but he's going to be the most clutch quarterback in the NFL. And we've seen mediocre quarterbacks be the most clutch quarterback in all of football. We saw guys like Jimmy Garoppolo take his team to the Super Bowl, and everybody knows that Jimmy Garoppolo is the definition of mid at the quarterback position. And I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is vastly underrated, but nobody is going to go out here and say that Jimmy G is an elite quarterback or that he's even necessarily a consistently good quarterback in the National Football League. I think Sam Howell is going to be one of those type of players at the quarterback position where he's not going to put up the best stats. He's not going to be putting up over 4,000 yards. He's not going to be putting up over 30 touchdowns a year. But what Sam Howell is going to do is, if you can keep the game close, he will find a way to win you the games at the end with this moxie, with this swagger, with this gunslinger-like mentality, and he's going to get the job done. And Sam Howell is an underrated runner as well. And speaking of the running game for the Washington Commanders, I think the running game has gone under the radar. I'm looking at their 1-2 punch that they have at the running back room. How is no one hyping up Brian Robinson Jr. and Antonio Gibson at the running back position? Brian Robinson Jr. is a workhorse back that can absolutely power through linebackers and safeties. This guy's an underrated runner. Sure, he sucks at explosive runs, but as a power back, he can absolutely get the job done. If the Commanders give him the ball a lot at the goal line, I think this is a guy that can lead the league in rushing touchdowns. And then they've got Antonio Gibson, who has the skill set of a wide receiver, but he plays the running back position because he's really good at reading the hole. The biggest thing with Antonio Gibson is he's got to cut down the fumbles, but I believe that he can do that. Antonio Gibson is a talented player, and he can even serve as a poor man's version of Alvin Kamara or Christian McCaffrey. That's how high I am on Antonio Gibson. I'm just really high on the Commanders' offense in general. Look, do I think that Sam Howell is going to make the Commanders the best offense in all of football? No, I don't think that. But I think Eric Bieniemy is going to put players in positions to succeed. I think Eric Bieniemy should be a head coach in the National Football League, and it's really a darn shame that he's not a head coach in the NFL because he has been robbed of that opportunity. A lot of people keep talking about how Eric Bieniemy, he didn't call the plays in Kansas City. Oh, look at him. He just doesn't fit the mold of what an NFL coach looks like. And I'm like, this is absolutely ridiculous. So what if he didn't call plays? Zach Taylor didn't call plays, and he turned out to be a good coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. Nick Sirianni didn't call plays for the Indianapolis Colts. Now he's a head coach in the NFL that just took the Philadelphia Eagles to the Super Bowl. Heck, even Andy Reid didn't even call plays before he was a head coach. Back when he was the offensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers during the Brett Favre days, he didn't call plays whatsoever. He let Mike Holmgren call the plays. Mike Holmgren was the head coach of the Green Bay Packers at that time. You don't have to call plays in order to be a great head coach in the National Football League. It certainly helps, but it's not a requirement, and we've seen it with those guys. And Eric Bieniemy, we know that he absolutely knows what he's doing, and he's done a great job inventing the RPO game in the NFL, and he's going to bring that over to the Washington Commanders. With all those playmakers that the Washington Commanders have, they're going to be really explosive at the running back and wide receiver position. They've also got Logan Thomas as well, solid tight end that they got in the room. And defensively, how can I not hype up the Washington Commanders? I'm thinking about the fact how they got a defensive line front of Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and Chase Young. That's probably the best defensive line in all of football. Yeah, I said it. They're the best defensive line in all of football. And I expect Chase Young to revert back to rookie Chase Young, where he was this dominant player before he ended up tearing his knee in year 2. If Chase Young can be a dominant football player, watch out, because I don't know how the Washington Commanders are going to be stopped on the defensive line, because they've got Montez Sweat, who's already a premier defensive end in the National Football League. They've already got 2 elite defensive tackles in Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne. And then, of course, in the secondary, they got Cam Curl, an underrated safety. He's a hard-hitting safety that's really smart with what he is doing on the defensive side of the ball. And then they got Kendall Fuller. And then they got Emmanuel Forbes as their cornerbacks. Those are really good additions that the Washington Commanders made in the draft. Kendall Fuller is already a really good cornerback one, and he's already proven that over a number of years. And I love the Emmanuel Forbes fit. Emmanuel Forbes is a dog, and he's going to stick to your man. And Emmanuel Forbes is going to make major impact for the Washington Commanders this year. When I talk about this Washington Commanders team, I am absolutely getting hyped about the roster that they have because they just need the quarterback to play at sea level. If he can do that, this is a team to watch out for in the NFC. And speaking of the NFC, it's really weak in general. Outside of Jalen Hurts, there are no elite quarterbacks in the NFC. If Dak Prescott is the second best quarterback in the NFC, that means that your conference is quite frankly wide open and weak at the quarterback position because Dak Prescott can't win a big game to save his life. Some other top quarterbacks to think of in the NFC are Matthew Stafford, who looks like he's one injury away from being forced into retirement. And then they got Jared Goff. Jared Goff is an inconsistent quarterback. And then there's Kirk Cousins. He can't win any primetime games to save his life. That's basically the good quarterbacks in the NFC. Outside of Jalen Hurts, there are no definitive good quarterbacks in the NFC. That means the NFC is wide open and that whichever team makes a big jump on the defensive side of the ball is going to make major impact for the Washington Commanders this year. I'm also thinking about how the Commanders are better than everybody in the NFC North. They're better than everybody in the NFC South. And they're better than almost everybody else in the NFC West. Now, maybe you can make an argument that the San Francisco 49ers are better than the Washington Commanders. I'm not going to say that's true, though, because the San Francisco 49ers are going to end up having quarterback instability this season with Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Sam Darnold all sharing first-team reps. At the end of the day, the San Francisco 49ers, even though they've had a great run the last few years, their quarterback instability is going to catch up to them. No coach can scheme that 49ers quarterback room out of trouble. Not even Kyle Shanahan can go ahead and do it. And maybe you could list the Seattle Seahawks as a team that could be better than the Washington Commanders, but I highly doubt that because the Seahawks don't win a lot of playoff games in recent memory. Pete Carroll hasn't had playoff success outside the LOB in Seattle. And then, of course, you look at the NFC East, they've got the New York Giants. The New York Giants, to me, are fraudulent. They're not going to be that good this year. And then there's the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles are legit contenders, but it's really hard to get back to the Super Bowl in back-to-back years. I don't care who the quarterback is. It's just really hard to do so unless if you have Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. It is almost a surefire bet that the team would not repeat out of the conference. It's really that simple. But then, of course, there's the Dallas Cowboys who cannot win big games to save their lives. So to me, the Washington Commanders, they're going to be the number one seeded team in the NFC this year with their strong defense and clutch quarterback play as well as the weapons that they do have. And they are going to make an appearance in Super Bowl 58. They're going to win the NFC. I feel confident in my pick. I feel confident in the Commanders roster in general. I feel confident about their coaching. And look, I'm not saying that Sam Howell is going to light the world on fire, but that's okay because Sam Howell doesn't have to light the world on fire. Sam Howell just needs to not blow games for the Washington Commanders. As long as he can go ahead and give them average quarterback play, this is going to be the best team in the NFC this season. So that is why the Washington Commanders are legitimate contenders in the NFC this season. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That will be for the @Dustin Tran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @Dustin Tran and @Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video. Comment down below. Check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.